Aboro Aboye. So, the Oni of Ife is making headlines once more. The Oni of Ife, if you don't know, is the highest ranking king of Yoruba land. The kingdom of Ife is the umbilical cord, it's the source of all other crowns in Yoruba land. And so the Oni of Ife is the highest ranking king of Yoruba land. And as such, he's the highest embodiment of the tradition and the heritage and everything Yoruba, right? And he has, since his coronation, been seen in a variety of different places, evangelizing, espousing the beliefs of Christianity, and, you know, pretty much aligning himself with the Christian Church of Nigeria. Every time he does so, it draws a lot of criticism, a lot of condemnation, a lot of public outrage. People insult him online and thoroughly condemn what he's doing. But it reminds me also of a kind of a similar situation that took place with the Alafin of Oyo some years ago. The Alafin Oyo is also a paramount king of Yoruba land. In fact, you know, where Ife is the root of the heritage and the tradition and the history, Oyo is the root of the political, economic, and we could say a lot of the cultural pillars and roots of Yoruba culture. And the Alafin of Oyo is a Muslim. And he drew a lot of criticism from the Muslim population when he had his wife stand up and make prayer in front of the other Muslims. Not like she was facing them and praying them, but I think she had her back to them and she was doing a certain prayer sequence, and it was a big outrage. I don't know enough about Islam to say exactly what it was, but I remember it drew a lot of criticism, outrage, insult, and condemnation. Right now, in both cases, we're talking about two Yoruba kings and who were you know practicing Christianity or Islam, and then the rest of the Yoruba population being outraged by some way that they're doing this that contradicts, you know, a different dimension of the Yoruba identity, right? So it's kind of interesting similarity. But the other thing that I think underpins that contradiction and all of the outrage that comes out of these decisions is the fact that these men are kings, which means they have political positions. They are spiritually grounded, but they're in political positions. Okay, and so as such, a political leader has to make decisions based on strategy. So everything you see that the Oni of Ife is doing and the Alafin Oyo is doing is based on strategy. And the only way for you to understand and properly evaluate a strategy is if you understand the goal. If you don't know the goals, it's impossible for you to define the quality of the strategy. It just is impossible because you don't know what they're trying to actually achieve. Okay? And so before I go any further, let me tell you this is the School of Orisha Studies, and I'm your instructor, Obafemi Origuwa. Today's lesson is going to be on the relationship between strategy, goals, and identity. Okay? Strategy, goals, and identity. You can't separate one from the other and have a really fulfilled spiritual experience in this tradition. They go all together. And let me explain to you how that is the case. When we look at the situation of the Oni of Ife and his Christian practices, or the Alafin Oyo and his Islamic practices, it reveals this, you know, kind of this dual identity, you know, that creates political decision making, right? They're both Christian and Yoruba. They're both Islamic or Muslim and Yoruba, both at the same time. And so sometimes these things are in agreement, and sometimes they're contradicting one another. Okay, and so when you see them making these different moves publicly, if you don't understand why they're doing it, then you're going to think that they're making some kind of a terrible mistake. The Yorubas actually have a proverb that talks about this. It says that the ways of the wise look like madness to the fool. The ways of the wise look like madness to the fool. If you don't understand why someone is doing what they're doing, then you're going to be quick to conclude that they have just lost their mind. Right? That's just crazy. How could he do that? Well, because he has a goal, right? And this is a way for him to achieve that goal. And if you don't know what it is, then, right, of course it's going to look crazy to you. The Eastern people have a similar kind of a saying. It says that deliberation is with the many, but decision making is with the few. Deliberation is with the many, but decision making is with the few. If you're not a part of that inner circle of decision makers, then you know, by definition, you're just someone who has an opinion, right? And you're just throwing that opinion out for the ears of the political decision makers and thinkers to catch a hold of and say, oh, okay, this is what the sentiment of the people is. This is what they're interested in. This is what they're willing to do. This is what they're not willing to do. But your public opinion is not defining the decision-making process. Okay? Now, for the African American practitioner of Orisha lifestyle, why does this matter? This matters because you may be within a lineage, for example, that condemns the Oni's move, right? You were initiated in a certain part of Yoruba land, and within your lineage, within your Oluwo and on that compound, they disagree with the Oni's decision. They disagree with his practice. They disagree with his affiliation with the Christians, right? And they will condemn the Oni of Ife for their own reasons. But do the goals of the Oni of Ife align more closely with your goals as an African American? Or do the goals of your lineage more closely align with your goals as an African American? Right? Now, you don't have any way to know what the Oni's goals are, but you do have a way to know what the goals of your lineage are. Right? What are the goals of your lineage in terms of your population, your community? Does your lineage have a set of goals for the African American community? Does your lineage even have a definition of the African American community? Do they know two things about the African American reality where you are? Who are the pioneers of African American culture? Who are the people who have made it possible for you to even make contact with West African practitioners or Cuban practitioners or Brazilian practitioners? Wherever you practice, whatever tradition you're a part of, what I'm saying right now is true for everything. Do they know anything about what has brought your community to this particular intersection of your spiritual development? Do they know anything about it? And can they, if they don't know anything about it, can they actually set any goals for your population without having any idea of where you come from, without having any idea of where you're trying to go as a community? Is that possible? Right? So this is important for you to understand because they can be setting goals for themselves that totally contradict what you need for yourself. Their their objectives for what's an ideal outcome, what they want for their relationship with African Americans can be totally different from what you want. You need to determine what that is so that you can now actually properly evaluate everybody's strategy, including your own. Okay? Now, the only way for you to actually do that responsibly, that is, understand their value, their strategy and their goals, and understand your strategy and your goals, is to understand actually who you are. You are starting from a particular place, and that's something that no one can tell you. The Babalawo is not going to be able to tell you who you are, right? They're not going to be able to tell you who you are, which means they can't define the true starting point of your journey. That's something that you have to deal with. You've got to address, right? when I was 5 years old, kindergarten, my earliest memory of school was not at school. My earliest memory of school was me being at home and the phone rang. And I picked up the phone and it was the school calling me and saying, "Hi." I said, "Hi. Uh, why are you at home? How come you didn't come to school today? Or why did you leave school?" So, well, I was at school and the teacher didn't know my name. And so I didn't see why I needed to stay someplace where they don't even know my name. And I came home. Oh, well, in that case, we're going to make sure your teacher knows your name from now on, okay? Please come back to school. Oh, okay. I hung up the phone and I went back to school. This is in kindergarten, okay? So what that says is that your self-determination, your identity is something that you brought with you. It's something that I brought with me, right? It's not something that, oh, I don't know who I am until I know my Odu. No. Oh, I had no idea who I am until I know this is my Orisha. No. Oh, I have no idea who I am until I can put on a fila and put on my ileke. No, 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 no. I knew who I was from the beginning. You knew who you were from the beginning, right? It's just a question of accepting who you are, embracing who you are, celebrating who you are, and empowering who you are so that you can actually stand firm and face the direction that you chose in the very beginning. That's your starting place. That's what's going to allow you to properly evaluate the goals and the strategies of everybody who you work with, everybody who you make alliances with, everybody with whom you invest. All right? So what I want you to do is I want you to of course maintain your focus and your discipline and strive for the highest level of practice, but do it based on something that will in the long run allow you to get everything you need to do what you are born to do where you are right here right now. Aboru aboye, aboshishe.